Savannah, thank you for sticking around for the Patreon chat for our Patreon members. A few sometimes harder hitting, sometimes relaxed questions. I did have one off the bat, Luke. If you don't mind, I'll jump straight in.
Go
So
for it.
we didn't really dig into it in the main part of the podcast, but so Dad, I don't know, in my mind, and I guess probably anyone that hasn't really asked you the question, maybe just assume that it was together or whatever. But so dad took his life first, and your mum was independently of that, not knowing.
No, so that is, yeah. I mean, there's no question. I promise you, just so you know, there's no question you can ask me that and be like offended or anything.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your cautiousness with that. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's I'm an open book. From what I've gathered, and it took some time to piece it together because at first the police, of course, wanted to make sure there was no foul play because my mom did have a brain disease, and they were found together. So my mom had been planning. She had been planning to take her life for several months, and I didn't know that. Obviously, I had been trying to connect them with social workers and different things at the time to just help her because I knew she was not in a good place, but she'd been there for a long time. So what I didn't realize though is that behind the scenes, she had openly talked to my dad about her plan, and they actually looked into different states that had I guess the legality, because in the US it's not legal, like when you have a terminal illness. She was looking into going to certain states where she was able to do assisted suicide. That's how serious she was about making that choice of I'm done. I've been in pain for so long. And that's why I say I respect, I can't imagine what she went through. So that being said, they researched those things. They were told no. I guess you have to have an expiration date. And with Huntington's, you don't get that luxury. So you just kind of have to deal with it. And so that's when she made the choice. And my dad was helping her through that of making sure that I think the biggest thing that he wanted to make sure, just looking through the research of he wasn't very good at clearing out their computer browser history or anything. He wanted to make sure that she was successful and that nothing was putting her in the hospital with injuries and stuff due to her just not fully being there. So he made sure that they would fall asleep and not wake up and that nothing would be painful. That's what he wanted for her. So they did that part together. She was involved in that whole process. She even had written out her whole funeral plan, the songs she wanted, everything was there. There was nothing for my dad. So it took me a minute to figure it out. And then she had a Valentine's card sitting on the table for him. And where she said, please be there for our kids. Please do these things. He, though, in his card to me and my brother, for some reason, I mean, I guess mentally he wasn't fully there. He made it sound like they made the choice together and that she was with him on it the whole time, which was not the case. So that part's hard because it is weird the way that it all happened. And I think a lot of people chose to believe that they did take their lives together because they just couldn't live without each other. But the reality of it was I'm assuming because he helped her, and it was for her, he knew that was the choice she was going to make regardless of if he helped or not, that he wanted to make sure he had control over it so that it wasn't anything crazy. Because she did have episodes where she would just people get in those moods, in those it's not good. And so he wanted to make sure of that. And so I think he knew he would go to jail. I mean, honestly, that's the only thing I can think of, is that he knew that he would have no quality of life after that if he helped her. And he made the choice to sacrifice himself in that situation because we had talked about plans. I asked him 3 months prior to them dying if he was depressed or suicidal at all. And he looked me straight in the eyes and he laughed. And he was like, "No, I would never do that." Straight up. I mean, because I was real with him and I was like, "Are you okay?" Because I know things are hard. And so that, was crazy to me because I trusted and believed that he was okay. And I do think that he was. I don't think it was oh, he just couldn't handle life and that was the choice. Honestly, she prepared everything. She had their last meal together. Everything was exactly how she wanted it. She spent her last few days doing all the things she wanted to do. And she actually had a vase filled with sticky notes of all the things she wanted to say to people. Some of them were not nice. Each person, like in her family, had a sticky note. And she wrote down like the things that they ate on their last meal and that she was happy and at peace with her decision. There was nothing for my dad. Like he didn't leave anything. So that part is, it's strange. But yeah, as far as
Yeah.
I can make out, like it wasn't, she had no knowledge of it.
Wow. That's another complexity into a already complex situation. This certainly does feel like I'm overstepping Mark, so please don't feel like you have to answer this. How? What was?
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably a question most people would want to know. And that is not something that I ever, like with the newspapers and everything, like obviously the police reports and stuff are not allowed to disclose the
Hmm.
actual thing. But no, they use pentobarbital, which is, I guess, called the sleeping drug in other countries. I know in Mexico, like you can get it under the table, and they did that with cash. They sent a money order and stuff and was able to get illegal things. And that part for me is like strange because I really didn't realize how easy it was to access stuff like that. And if you do your research, it's crazy to me because while I have different thoughts on all of it, it's just, it's sad how like nothing was caught. And it's really not hard to do that. And people in Mexico were more than happy for him to spend his cash on that, and they're like, sure, we'll expedite it to you,
It's money
you
for
know?
them. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. That's yeah. It's surprising, but also not surprising, I guess, that it is, available and easily accessible as well, given the world that we live in. So yeah, thank you
Yeah,
so much
I
for
think
sharing
if
that.
people really want it, they'll find a way to get it. So
Right.
it's a bit it's yeah, I actually don't know the laws in Australia. I don't know if one state has is looking into it.
I think,
Assisted.
yeah, there is a state. I think they're it's still not legalized, and it's a
Yeah.
very murky situation. But it's I don't know.
But
You have
you hear stories of people with like riddled with cancer and they're suffering and then they have to fly all the way to Switzerland to get that choice. So
hmm,
it's crazy that they have to fly, 20 plus hours riddled with cancer and in pain just to have an option in life. So yeah, it's definitely it's a big topic, I think.
It is. It's one that, I think it's difficult for people to discuss. And most people are like, oh, suicide is not a choice. People are sick. I get that. I mean, I'm in the mental health field. I totally understand that there are some people. I think that's why there's so many um like legalities in place for it, is because it is very important to differentiate between someone who's riddled with cancer, but mentally they are fully recognizing this is what I want and this is my choice, versus somebody who maybe has a disease who can't make the choice. It's really hard to know the difference between the two. And, you know, in all the research that's been done on suicide, it's a really hard topic because there's so much different layers to it. But in all the research that I've read, um, the majority say it's a temporary feeling, and that if they were given the choice, to people who haven't actually completed it and who tried to and survived, said that they wouldn't have made the choice. It was like 9 times out of 10 that was said. So that's an interesting thing too, because for my mom, I feel like it was final for her, you
hmm,
know? So
yeah,
that's hard. I respect that, but at the same time, I do think it is very complex because some people who might make the choice maybe are not, maybe tomorrow they would make a different decision, and if it was available to everybody, probably wouldn't be good for people who have bad days,
yeah, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I think that's you're right. There's so many complexities, and you just don't know. I think prior to even having this podcast and speaking to people that have lost people to suicide, maybe it's the general consensus of public as well that it's so selfish and whatever stereotypes that are out there, or those generalized comments. But I think what we've learned from this is you just don't know. You can't know until you're in that position, and certainly with your mum having that type of disease, you, you don't know unless you're going through it yourself. And then even the added complexity of that is your dad being the carer, what was going on in his mind. And whilst he can front up to you and say, yeah, totally fine, yeah, would never do that, you don't know what he's thinking. With your brother with that diagnosis, how has that affected him, and is that something that's, I guess, high on your radar as well, and making sure that he's okay?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a tough thing with siblings because it's just him and I left in our family. We don't really have any extended family that we're close to or that we speak to. So it's really just him and I. And we both made the choice, mostly me, to get tested. And he decided to do it because he didn't want me to do it alone, which I kind of regret. And I should have just like said no, because he had originally said he didn't want to. And then I ended up being negative for Huntington's and he was positive. That was like devastating because I was like, there's no way that like you have to go through this and I don't. I felt so guilty for so long and I think I still struggle with it, but trying to make sure that he's okay has been a top priority for me for sure. His disease has definitely progressed a lot faster than my mom. He's only 4 years older than me and he's already symptomatic and he just recently started having seizures from the disease as well. And has a lot more physical symptoms than my mom ever did. Like we didn't start seeing anything was like off with her until her mid 40s. And my brother is in his late 30s and he's already exhibiting symptoms that you can physically see, which is just crazy how the disease manifests in each person so differently. But I think I've struggled with, it took me a really long time to come to terms with like the fact that I can't save anybody. That's not my job, even though I want to. And even though I feel like it's my responsibility because I don't have that diagnosis and he does, that because he has struggled with suicidal ideation. He was in the military prior and he went on many different tours and he has a lot of PTSD. So he was already struggling before the diagnosis. And so as soon as he figured out like that he had it, he was just like, I won't live to the point where like I get like mom, just so you know. So that for me was like, okay. He literally was just straight up. He's like, I'm just letting you know. And I was like, okay. So like coming to terms with like, I can't make choices for him. I can't make up his mind. I can't save him from himself. Those are all his choices has been very hard for me to accept. And I think just trying to be there for him where he's at and just be like, I love you. Is there anything you need from me? What can I do for you? Instead of constantly trying to fix. Because for years I was like, okay, let's try this doctor. Let's try this new therapy. And I think he just got really worn out with that because he's like, I love you. And I'm really thankful that you're trying to be there for me. But at the same time, like, there's nothing you can do. It's not going to go away. You're just going to have to accept that this is reality. And let's just make the most of the time that we have. And so like for my kids' birthdays, we just did a beach trip and I had him come from Maine and it was hard for him to travel. I was just so thankful he could come because like those moments that he gets to spend with my kids are like everything to me because I don't know if that's the last time I'm going to see him. Just being honest, like even though he's young, like he's not well. So watching my mom go through it and then watching my brother go through it too. And I have like 2 aunts that have it right now very severely as well. It's sad. It's so sad to watch. And so like there's a huge community for Huntington's disease that I've really tried to like plug into when I have the capacity because sometimes I'll be real, like it's hard for me to be around people and to watch that with all the grief I've already been through, but advocating for it and trying to like be in that community has helped me a lot to feel like I have a place, I guess, despite having a negative diagnosis. Cause then, sometimes I feel like I don't know what my place is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I can't even imagine what that, but I certainly hear that. I guess being grateful for those moments with your brother is really all you can do. As much as you can, want to fight it and be there and help him. As you said, it's his choice, it's his journey as well, for want of a better term. So, yeah, it's just difficult. It's just crappy, fortunately. One final question for you, Luke, unless you have anything else you wanted to ask. Savannah, I want to be respectful of your time. Savannah, kept you way too long from the family.
No, it's all yours, mate. Go for
Okay.
it.
Savannah, if we asked in the main part of the podcast if mum and dad was in front of you, in that same vein, if they were in front of you today, what do you think they would say to you if we flip the script? In terms of, I don't know, granted, absolutely, your mum left, some notes for different sticky notes for all the different people, and a letter to you. But if again, probably individually, I'm guessing if they were in front of you today, what do you think they would say to you about? It doesn't necessarily have to be at that, what had happened, but the journey since then and to you now.
Yeah. I really, really hope that they would tell me that they were proud of me for how hard I've fought to still be here and be okay and be a good parent and educate myself on something that's really hard. And I do think like taking all that pain and trying to turn it into something good, even though it's something bad, obviously, has been what has driven me to keep going each day. And so while I can't change what happened to me and I can't change the circumstances, I can change me. And I think something that I saw that was really lacking with my mom's healthcare and with my brothers now is there's no resources for people with rare diseases like Huntington's, where you're still able to be independent, but you have all of these complexities and things that you need. My brother he's been like in that place for several years now where like he really should have a lot more options for healthcare that he doesn't because he can't work like he used to. My mom was in the same position and she was denied so many benefits. Because I can't change those things, I decided, to get educated and try to be a person one day who has a voice, who can make those changes. And I know like one person probably can't do much, but one person trying to make a difference is better than nobody. So like I'm literally pouring my time and energy now into trying to find a career that can change the course for somebody else one day so that they don't have to go through the same things that I did of like calling all these people and having zero resources. I can't tell you the amount of times that I've had medical professionals, and I mean I don't quit. If I'm looking for something like for medical care for my mom or my brother, I will figure out every single doctor that I can irritate and I will figure out how to contact them, and I've done it all through the states. And I've had so many of them tell me, I don't know how to help you. I'm so sorry. Like, this isn't something I've ever dealt with before. So my goal is to change that, to change the narrative, and I really hope that one day, like, I can do that and that my parents see like the effort and time that I'm putting into it now of not wallowing in everything while I'm sad and I grieve them every single day. Like, I'm trying to make my life matter in their absence and like, I guess, continue on in a legacy that they wanted to have and that they would have if they had the capacity to do so.
Good answer. Not surprisingly, and I think if I can say this, you definitely, I think you definitely will have that impact. And if it's one person that you can help, through academically and career-wise, what you're trying to do, I think I have no doubt that you will impact someone's life. And even I think you're doing that now just by coming on to our humble little podcast. If there's someone out there that you help that is going through, hears your story and either pulls them out of a situation that they're thinking about, or if it's someone that's helping someone else through a disease, it doesn't have to be Huntington's, or a situation that will help them deal with their own grief journey. I think you've certainly helped someone today by just coming on and chatting with us. So on behalf of Luke and I and Ryan, who couldn't be here today, appreciate you giving up your time and coming onto the podcast as well. It's an amazing story. It's a unique story. It's a horrible story, but it's also one that, as you said, has made you the person that you are. So we appreciate you and it's so grateful for you coming onto the podcast and giving up your time.
Thank you.
Let you get back to your family and help your hubby out. Thank you again for joining us, Savannah. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. It was a privilege.